Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by graduate student from the Clemson women's lacrosse team, Lindsey Marshall. In her 52 career games, Lindsey has scored 125 goals, gotten 33 assists, 158 points, 48 ground balls, 30 caused turnovers, and 208 draw controls. This allowed her to be on the All-CAA First Team twice, CAA All-Rookie Team, CAA All-Tournament Team, and All-CAA Second Team. Before college, Lindsey scored 54 goals and won 104 draws to help lead her team to the Baltimore County Championship title game in 2019. She was also a first team All-County selection her junior year, and I'm super excited to have her on today. So welcome to the podcast, Lindsey, and how is everything going?
Great. I'm trying to keep busy. Definitely changing headspace, heading to South Carolina instead of being in Baltimore County. I've actually lived in Baltimore County my entire life, so it's definitely changed. But yeah, right now I am actually working with the Athletes Unlimited, the Pro League. So that started up last week, which was super fun to be able to be around the sport and really amazing people. But yeah.
Yeah, what's your role with AAU, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm actually the staff care coordinator. So basically, long story short, I make sure all the staff are happy and taken care of. Last year I was an assistant field manager, so um, basically a glorified ball girl, but picked up balls, did like Gatorades and waters and stuff for the team, and it was a really good intro to the professional world. So it was fun. It was so fun.
That's awesome. It looks like it's a lot of fun. It feels like this year it seems even bigger than it was last year.
Definitely, yeah, they've grown a lot. All of Athletes Unlimited, but specifically lacrosse, yeah, and this class of rookies is just insane. So I'm so excited to see what they do.
I'm excited as well. So they draft up different teams every week and play each other. I'm familiar with it obviously, but I'm still trying to get used to how the league works and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different, but it's definitely pretty cool. You get to play with a bunch of different people that you might not have been able to play with in college or on the professional team, and um, but yeah, it's really cool.
Well, I'm excited for it. Hopefully, Izzy Skane and Charlotte North are on the same team together one time. I feel like that would be a lot of fun to watch.
Definitely, they're not this week, but you never know for the upcoming weeks, which is
I
so cool.
know, I know. Well, let's start off this podcast talking about the upcoming season and your recent transfer. So what made you end up deciding to go into the portal, and why did you choose to go to Clemson for this incoming season?
So obviously I had an extra year. I had a pretty significant knee injury. I missed my whole sophomore year. And then I actually was not planning on returning for a fifth year, but we didn't have quite as much success as we kind of hoped this year, and we lost to a big conference team in the last game of our season, and it completely ended our season. Actually, it was senior day and my birthday, so definitely wasn't fun. But right after, like, we lost in overtime, and right when the ball went in the back of the net, like I kind of turned to whoever was standing next to me, and I was like this can't be my last game. So then like a week later we had our meetings and I was like, I think I'm gonna go into the portal and just try something new. But yeah, it's all about that. Like just like I said before, I've been in Baltimore County my whole life. Like I'm in Catonsville right now and my high school was 10 minutes down the road. Then Towson actually is still in Baltimore County. So never left. And I've kind of always just been very much of a homebody, but being able to get pretty far. Like it's a 9 hour drive I gotta take in a month, but being able to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, new conference, definitely different people, new facilities, and just a new experience. I'm really excited.
Yeah, what does your off season look like in regards to training, and what are some things you're working on to prepare for the upcoming season?
Mine looks a little bit different. So obviously tore my ACL, my meniscus in 2021. Missed that whole season, came back junior year, played, was great, felt great. And then right before like August going in my senior year, I tore my meniscus again. So I got surgery in the fall. I didn't play at all last fall. But then when they went to fix my meniscus, basically they found out that when I had my original injury in 2021, I like fractured my femur and it's still fractured and like never healed. So with my meniscus surgery, they did a meniscectomy. So they took out my torn part of my meniscus. So they were just like super worried about like my bones hitting each other without having like the cushion of the meniscus. So I'm not really allowed to run a whole bunch. I just mainly weight train and play a ton of lacrosse. It's like the main way I can get my cardio. I do the bike a lot too, but um, yeah, I just go to the field every day because I can't get my cardio in very often. But and it's obviously very good to practice and keep a stick in the hand. But yeah, it's a little complicated, but it's working.
Yeah, do you think you're gonna be ready to play for fall ball coming up?
Definitely. I played the whole season last year, was fine. I could have played in the fall, but my surgeon was just a little bit kind of like, let's not push it if we don't have to and save your legs for the season. But I'm totally fine. I feel great. I get some like shots and stuff in my knees to make them feel a little bit better, or my knee to make it feel a little better. But yeah, no, I'll be great. I'm really excited and it's definitely refreshing and I feel like I have a new kind of motivation. So very, very excited.
Now, have you had the chance to meet any of your future teammates for the upcoming season yet?
Yes, so actually I knew I think her name's Demma Hall. She plays at Clemson now. She transferred there last year. I like kind of grew up with her a little bit, just playing cross against each other. Um, and I've been hanging out with her. She's great. I've been added to all of their like group me's and group messages, and all the grad students have been super welcoming too because they're kind of in the same boat. So it's kind of fun that like Clemson is such a great school that people want to transfer to kind of have everybody feel kind of the same way about going into a new experience. And the staff's been great. They're super amazing, super um but like kind of relax about the whole thing, like obviously very like up to business, but very, very nice and welcoming.
That's good to hear. And have you thought about what your goals and expectations with Clemson are going to be like for next season? Obviously, the team had a pretty decent year last year. A lot of great recruits coming in for this upcoming season as well. So I'm just curious if you sort of thought about any of those goals and expectations for next season.
Sort of really just want to hang. I want to be able to hang with them. The CAA and the ACC are a little bit different, so being able to compete at one of the best conferences in college lacrosse is a huge deal. Like I'm very, very grateful. And yeah, I literally just want to hang for the first few months. And I actually asked my old coaches to write up like a little scouting report for myself so I can try to set my own goals this summer and figure out where I can improve.
Well, transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So you're from Cantonsville, Maryland. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Catonsville is kind of a huge breeding ground for lacrosse players. Um, a lot of my friends I grew up with playing rec like are playing in the big leagues now. So it's a great little town. I was four, I believe. My mom and dad both played lacrosse. My dad played for a year in college. But yeah, I actually didn't like it at first. I was kind of a huge crybaby, and like during my games, like as a 5-year-old in Pinkies is what it was called in rec, I would sit in the middle of the draw circle and cry and pick flowers. And every day I would go home and I'd be like, Mom, I want to quit. I want to quit. She's like, one more game. And then got a tiny bit older and I was like, okay, like this is pretty fun. I'm also just like super competitive. So needed to be at least okay at something. So um yeah, it's Catonsville's a great little town, great people. But yeah.
And growing up, did you have like a favorite team or player that you like to watch?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of cliche, but it's like the 2017 Maryland and the UNC's that year too. I was actually very fond of Zoe Stukenberg. I remember like my mom also was a big fan of hers because she kept saying like she's a bio major with a 4.0 and she just won the tour and then a national championship. Like she I always looked up to her and obviously Taylor Cummings from doing the draw and everything, but what a great group of athletes for sure. And Megan Whittle and just all of them are amazing.
Now, before college, you got to play for your high school. So talk about your high school lacrosse days, what you took away from it, and like what's your favorite memory from that time when you look back on it now?
So I went to two high schools. I went to Glenelg Country School in Glenelg, Maryland for my first 2 years and then finished up at Catonsville, Maryland. I mean, Catonsville High School. So definitely two different experiences there. Glenelg, we were like playing McDonough and NDP and everything. And Catonsville was still really great competition. It was just like public school, so it was just a little bit different looking. Um, Both were super fun. But I think my favorite memory from Catonsville High School was, and it's gonna sound kind of weird, but during COVID, it was cut my senior year short, so didn't get to play my senior lacrosse year. But it was just super inspiring to see how much my coaches cared for all of us individually and scheduled Zoom calls for us to all be able to connect. We connected as teammates. Um, I think my head coach actually like dropped off an Easter basket and hid Easter eggs like in all of our houses. And then Easter morning we got to wake up and um, go Easter egg hunt outside of our own houses, which was super amazing. And it just shows, sorry, my cat, just shows how important community is around here. And I have everything to thank for her in the world. She was the most caring individual and definitely wouldn't be where I am today without her.
Why did you end up switching high schools?
I just private school just wasn't for me. Grew up public
Hmm.
school girl, but end of the day it just definitely wasn't for me. But I wouldn't change any of it for a second. Definitely a lot of learning lessons from that.
Now, how do you think your high school lacrosse experience and your club lacrosse experience sort of help prepare you for college?
Being from Maryland, obviously like hotspot, so you get to play some of the best of the best. Fortunately, and then like even in the club, you got to play like people from all different states and kind of test out your talent against other great talent across this country. Um, but my club coach, Christy Black, played at Maryland. She was amazing. Still talk to her all the time. She's great. But she definitely had a very high expectation for us as a club team, and it turned out pretty well. A lot of us played in college and had pretty good careers. So um, very intense, but like very worth it, especially because it's kind of get what you get out of it kind of thing. Like you put in what you get out or whatever. So we worked really, really hard and she was definitely really integral to how I ended up at least.
Well, let's get into your recruiting process now with Towson. What was that process like for yourself, and what made you want to go there versus the schools you might have looked at?
So again, my situation's a tiny bit different. I was the year that the rule changed. So my freshman year was or yeah, so my freshman year was the last year that you could commit as a freshman, like before December or something. So I actually committed in November of my freshman year at 2016, 2017, to Penn State. Was committed there for 3 years. And then when I transferred to Catonsville, I kind of realized that like I am a homebody and I kind of want to stay close and then kind of like panicked and ended up decommitting and then was looking locally, met Sonia and Mike, the old coaches at Towson, and kind of fell in love with it there, being able to stay close and like on one Sunday, if you're like, oh, I miss my parents, like being able to have them just come get you, make you a home cooked meal, and um, just getting a little brain break, kind of. It was like 25 minutes away from home, so not too bad, but not too close. Um, so yeah, definitely a little different, but definitely got out of it what I wanted, which was great.
Yeah, I saw that you have an older sister that went to school in New York, so it's probably a little bit of a different experience being far away from home for her, and then you obviously being close to home. Just curious if sort of that led to the decision of you wanting to be closer to home.
Definitely, and she keeps moving. So she graduated in 2022, crap, I think. And then ended up moving like straight away to Colorado, just trying to figure out what she wants to do. Didn't like it very much. Moved, she lives in Raleigh now. And then I think she's moving back up to New York. But yeah, no, my sister and I grew up super close. My whole family was super close. It is super close. Um, Definitely inspiring. I'll never tell her that, so she can never hear this, but she just carried herself in like such an inspiring way. She was just so strong and cared a lot about us and definitely could take some pointers from her. But yeah, definitely hard for her. Actually, funny, I didn't realize that I liked her as much until she left, and then she was getting in the car to drive 4 hours, and I was like, "Wait, don't actually go." I was kidding.
That's funny. Well, hopefully she could see one of your Clemson games if she lives sort of close by in North Carolina. I don't know how far that drive is, but I feel like it's close enough to make that happen.
I think it's still like 4 hours, but unfortunately, because North Carolina is pretty big, but no, she would do the world for me, so she'll definitely come down. And a lot of our football games are at Clemson, which would be great too.
Hmm. Well, let's talk about sort of your freshman year and your time, or just your whole time, I guess, with Towson. So, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse as a freshman?
Um, Definitely understanding that everybody is just as good as everybody else. Like the competition is unreal, and I was kind of fortunate enough growing up to like be a little more laid back. I played three sports my entire life, so like I didn't really I mean I focused on lacrosse, but it wasn't like crazy like it was the one sport I'm going to play Division 1 kind of thing. Um and then I got to college and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like everybody is so good." And definitely very intimidating and scary, but um again, like being a competitor, it just lights your fire and also being able to understand that like you have to be okay with changing things that you're very used to. So like every coach obviously is different and you have to adjust to them and you have to adjust to where like you might be needed. So I came in as a midfielder and then I got changed. I played I think my first game or maybe my first half of my game at midfield and coaches decided that wasn't for me and it's great. I love where I am now, but um being able to change my mindset from a midi to an attacker is very, very different. But yeah, being able to just be kind of like a sponge and soak up everything that people tell you because they know what's best for you and obviously know a lot more than I do. So yeah, just I guess being able to just soak up everything and be adverse and um yeah.
Yeah. How'd you sort of work on your versatility moving positions?
Not too hard. I was kind of always a much better attacker than defender. But a lot more fun, not as much running, which is great. You get to be on the goal and assisting side of the field, which is awesome too. And I also take the draw, so being able to be a part of the reason why my team gets to have the ball on that side of the field is super fun. And obviously getting to just conserve your energy a little bit selfishly, but
Hmm.
um, I wasn't very great at defense anyway, so it was probably bound to happen, but it happened a little earlier than I thought.
Yeah, can I ask you what's sort of your draw control strategies? Because this is the draw control podcast after all, so I feel like I have to ask you. I don't want you to give away all your secrets in case any of your opponents are listening, but any sort of insight on how you work on that part of your game would be really interesting to hear.
Yeah, it's pretty hard because normally you need somebody else to help you kind of take the draw against yourself. So, but I actually growing up would use a post on my fence and just like rep out draws for like hours and just try to get strong hands, strong wrists, and quick wrists. Just being able to focus on that part is huge. And then the strength all comes later when you have to get your body strong to play lacrosse at a high level anyway. But definitely quickness. Because nowadays these draw sticks are a little bit crazy. So being able to adjust to that too.
Who's the best draw taker you've ever gone up against in college?
Um, Chase Boyle. It gives me a headache every time because I've played them, I mean, every year I've been here. I think she's a year younger than me though, so I think I've only actually played her once because I think the year I was injured was maybe her freshman year, but um played her last year, definitely super annoying. She's very, very quick and very talented and kind of made a fool out of me. So um but hats off to her. She's amazing. She's having an amazing career and she's just so like you'd see the ball on the stick and you're like, "Oh my God, like this is my ball. Like I've got it." And then it's in her stick and you're like, "Okay, well, whatever."
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, she's a really good player as well. It's good to see
mhm,
that she got a lot of recognition for her season last year, it felt like, which
totally.
was finally well deserved. So looking forward to seeing how they do next year. But sort of
Totally.
getting back to your career, you got to play in the CAA. So I just want to ask you, what was that conference like and just the competition you faced each game in that league?
Super underrated. I think there are really great teams in the CAA that like people don't really expect kind of thing because it's not your like typical teams. Obviously, Stony Brook joining has given the conference a big shift too. But I mean, we had JMU before that, so definitely a great powerhouses. Hofstra is a sleeper. They're very good. Drexel's very good. They've been in the NCAA tournament, I think, for the past 3, 4 years. Um, Elon was very good this year, so it's just definitely not somebody that you can count out when you play a CAA team. So I think Sonya used to say this, but it's like all of them are like hard fought battles. I think all the teams in there are just gritty and athletic and just wanted a whole lot. And really, at the end of the day, it's whatever team wants it more. But obviously, being able to play Stony Brook, who's a national contender, is always just like amazing. And I've played them every year I've been able to play, so it's been great.
Now, obviously, we talked about this a little bit, but you missed your entire sophomore year due to an injury. So, how did you handle the adversity of missing your entire sophomore year due to that, from a mental aspect as well? Because I feel like that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Um, it must have been hard to sort of have that senior year where it got cut short in high school, finally have your freshman year, but obviously under sort of interesting circumstances
Mhm.
with some of the restrictions, and then your sophomore year dealing with that injury. I'm just sort of curious how you learned to sort of handle all that in that 3 year time span.
Definitely rough 3 years. I- it is really just the mental side of it because you know and you trust the people around you, your strength coaches, your trainers, your PTs, your coaches, your teammates. Like you know that they have your best interest and you know that they know what they're doing. So that part, I mean, was challenging and it was painful and hard, but the mental aspect is definitely something that we could look at a little bit more. I had never been injured before this injury, and I had a pretty big one. So, being able to adjust to like I think honestly the worst day was our first game that I couldn't play in. And I walked into the locker room and or I think I crutched into the locker room, but saw everybody's jerseys hanging in their locker and my locker was completely empty and that sucked to see because it kind of like it just kind of at that moment felt more real than it had before, which was super sad and super hard. I think I actually walked straight out, went to my trainer's room and like cried in her office for like almost the entirety of pregame. Um, and it's hard not to feel a little bit selfish in that way too, because you're like super excited for everybody else to get to have this amazing opportunity and be able to play at this level. But then again, like you're still a person and you have feelings, and those feelings sometimes have to do with yourself. And being able to understand that like it's okay to be a little bit selfish. It's okay to have people just want to listen. And it is also okay to listen. Being able to hear, I unfortunately able to talk to a lot of people that have gone through the same injury and learned a lot of perspective from a lot of people. And I've said this before, but my dad is very wise. Um, and he kept saying to me, like, pain is temporary, it's temporary. Um, and I took that kind of as both ways, physical and mental. And I think that was through my journey, kind of one of the biggest things that stuck with me because like they say after surgery, your first 3 days is the worst. But being able to put like a time limit on that injury is like it makes it not seem as bad. And then being able to kind of put a time frame around when you'll be immobilized kind of thing helped a lot too. But yeah, I encourage everybody and anybody that may happen to, hopefully not, to just be able to talk and listen and reach other people's perspectives because it's very challenging and not something that comes easy. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you learn a lot about yourself as a lacrosse player watching your team play? Because talking to other injured players, that's sort of the biggest takeaway is, well, if I'm not going to play, I might as well get something out of being on the sidelines. So I'm just curious if you learned anything about yourself and your team, sort of watching them play from that perspective.
100%. Yes. So before I kind of got hurt, I feel like every piece of film that I watch, I was kind of just watching and dissecting myself as like kind of feels like normal, like what you would do. But after learning that, I would still go home and watch film from practices that I wasn't practicing in and be able to watch what other people do and how other people succeed and kind of being able to take other people's parts of their games and make them your own or use them as your own. Um, but yeah, you like I mean if you're gonna have to sit out, like having to sit out and watching amazing lacrosse and amazing athletes and amazing coaches do what they do in front of you is it's amazing and it's that's underrated too. I mean, I don't want anybody to go through that, but being able to sit back and kind of get an extra year to kind of mature and um see it from other people's perspectives is super cool. And I feel like I kind of grew up a little bit faster because of that happening to me. You kind of got to see what's really important to you and what you're going to be able to sacrifice to make what you wanted to happen. And those were some goals, and I achieved a few of them, so felt good in the end.
What's your favorite memory with Towson when you look back on it now?
My freshman year, we beat Loyola, and it was our first like under the lights game. I think it my freshman year was the first year that Tiger Field was actually like being used by us. Either they used it before for like the 7 games that they had because of COVID the year before, or it wasn't done yet or something. But they just put these huge lights in, and like it was like a 4 or 5 o'clock game in the winter, so it was like dark within the second quarter, and um, we went down like 4-0, and we were like, oh no, like this is not good. And Sonia called a timeout and was kind of like, let's go, like get your heads together. And we all rallied around it and had some pretty great upperclassmen. And then we beat them, I think by like a few, like 4 or 5 maybe. And but yeah, like if you watch the highlights of the game, like there's like lights flashing, like you like when the lights go off, you can't see anything. It's crazy. So it was definitely experience, and being able to beat a rival. I mean, they're so amazing. So being able to do that my freshman year with that team was really great.
What would you say was like the biggest improvement you made to your game throughout your time with Towson? Because obviously, after your injury, your junior, and then heading into your senior year, you improved a lot based on the statistics. So I'm just curious, what were some of the things you think led to the success that you had on the field in those 2 years? And obviously, you had a good freshman year as well. So I'm just curious how you improved your game throughout your time in college.
Yeah, communication for sure. I think it's super underrated. I think you kind of learn growing up like to communicate like on the field, but I think too what's super important is being able to communicate off the field, whether that's with your trainers, your strength coach, your coaches, your teammates. It's super, super important to be able to know kind of what you need to do to be better, what you need to do to be a better teammate, what you can do for others, as well as what you can do for yourself to improve. But yeah, being able to have those hard conversations and sit down with their coach and be like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to be where I want to be? What do I need to do for the team, to have us do what we want to do? And kind of growing up and getting to college, like having, like I said, those hard conversations. But yeah, I mean, I think when Coach Kristen came in this year, I was still kind of weirdly, she had never seen me play, and sat out the whole fall, and when it got to spring, I was like, okay, well, like I'm gonna do what I can, and sitting down and being like, what do you need from me, and what do you need from me to help the team? Um, it's a hard conversation, and sometimes it's hard to hear, but communicating and understanding and coming to terms, and then excelling is a huge part of the game.
How will you summarize your lacrosse experience with Towson? Obviously, a lot happened with the injury. There was a coaching change as well. So I'm just sort of curious. A lot of things happened in those 4 years. So what would you sort of take away from those 4 years? Because at least from my perspective, it seemed like a really positive experience for you based on what you accomplished with them.
Definitely super positive. I had so much fun. I met the best people, but definitely a lot of adversity. And being able to kind of embrace that and roll with it. Got to college, obviously, like we said before, not in the best circumstances, being post-COVID, kind of in COVID sort of thing, being able to learn like what you can and can't do. Like we weren't allowed in the locker room at all in the fall. We had to wear masks on the bus. We were being COVID tested like 3 times a week, on game weeks. Crazy stuff. And then obviously, my injury and having to kind of handle 16 months of rehab, um, until I could play again, even get on the field, for non-contact. And then, like you just mentioned, my coaching change, it was came pretty late in the year too. I think it was like beginning of August that we were told. And then I was a senior, so kind of having to be like, wow, this sucks, like having to have a new coaching staff and leave when I've got 1 year left. But the rest of my class, and they're all amazing, like kind of grabbed that and ran with it. We took it as an opportunity to kind of change the things that we wanted to change about the team, and um, bring ourselves closer to each other. And then luckily we got a great coach in Kristen Carr and Kellen Freeman and Shelby and Beck. Um, but yeah, and you might think things are at the end of the world, but they're not. They're not as important or crazy as they're going to be. So definitely being able to go with the flow and kind of embrace and welcome change.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to hopefully get to know you a little bit more off the field. One random question I just want to ask you because I've seen it make an appearance already on camera. What is your cat's name?
His name is Bean. He's 3. I adopted him actually the year I tore my ACL. I think I like got off crutches, or I might have still been on crutches. I got off crutches and was like, let's get a cat, and went to the Baltimore County Animal Shelter and picked him up, and he's the little best thing. He also probably helped me grow up a little bit because I can barely take care of myself, but now I got to take care of another living, breathing thing. So, but I'm super grateful for him, and he's he's so cute and perfect. So, yeah.
So now, first non-lacrosse question is, what if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
I've asked around this question a few times in the past, and recently I've gotten a lot of Miley Cyrus, which I love. I mean, grew up on her in Hannah Montana, so they were great. But that's a little controversial one, but I'll take it. I love her.
Which team has the best college lacrosse jerseys?
Obviously, Clemson.
I do like the purple, or I think that's the purple one, the alternate. I think
Hmm.
that looks really cool. But I will say
Yeah.
my favorite color is blue, so I really enjoy Carolina or John Hopkins. I
Yes.
think those are really fun to see on the TV screen.
Yeah, Carolina blue is definitely one of the best colors out there for sure. And I also think the Duke men's, I don't remember which team they wore it, but I think it was their grays. They had grays at Duke men's lacrosse team and they looked really good.
Yeah. Now, which player on the Towson women's lacrosse team has the best off the field style?
This is gonna go to Hallie Chorus. She's a year younger than me. She's amazing and a great friend, but she shows up to the locker room in the best clothes and always looks put together. And then I stroll in with like a sweatshirt and sweatpants every day, looking like a mess. But and I definitely every time I need new clothes, I text her. I'm like, can you just shop for me?
Now, what's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Um, Lacrosse wise, I guess not lacrosse segment, but the rookies coming in for the pro league, it's kind of breathtaking because we're like almost the same age, some of them, but like um being able to see like how talented they are and kind of fit right into the rest of the environment, which is great. And then I don't know if you watch, but Love Island has been a little crazy this week too, and it's my new favorite show.
I have not watched it, so I can't, unfortunately, can't speak too much about that. I will say I saw The Bachelorette a couple
Mm,
nights ago. I sort of just was, there's nothing on. It's a bad week in sports, and as a sports
yeah.
fan, this is pretty brutal for me trying to find stuff to watch. So, I did watch a little bit of that, and that was pretty interesting. I won't lie, but I'd say the most interesting thing for me was just reading about the new NBA TV deal and what that's going to look like in 2025, 26. I think that's going to be interesting. And there's so much money involved with it and
Mhm.
how it's changed with the local broadcast. And I just think it's interesting. It's definitely as gearing to more streaming services. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised in like 20 years if every sports league has its own streaming service where you can watch
Yeah.
everything and it's not on cable anymore.
Yeah, and I was a sport management major, so like we learned all about that kind of stuff, and streaming makes so much money. So yeah, I think you're right on that one.
It's $76 billion the NBA is
Mhm.
getting on their new TV deal. It's just it's unfathomable to think about how much money that is.
I know, and like also like one of my most interesting things I learned in college was how much money March Madness makes. Like
I think it makes more money than the Super Bowl, like altogether. I read.
I can't remember the number, but it's like I think it like funds the rest of the NCAA. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just interesting for me to learn, and it, I would hopefully, that'll be cool to get $76 billion. Actually, I feel like that'll be kind of crazy. I don't know how to handle that. Maybe like, hopefully, a part of that would be kind of cool if I had enough money to sort of buy a team and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, one more non-lacrosse question is just what's one item on your bucket list that you'd like to accomplish one day?
I really want to work for an NFL team. Football is like one of my favorite sports. Grew up kind of watching it with my family and everything. And um, I want to work. I mean, I work in professional sports now with the Lacrosse League, but the NFL is definitely something that I would love to try to do one time.
Hmm.
Um, Not exactly sure what arena yet, but probably more of like the backside of it, like some sort of marketing or even field ops or sponsorship and stuff like that would be pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Who's your favorite NFL team right now?
The Ravens.
It should, do you think they're gonna finally make a Super Bowl this year? Obviously, they
I
came
mean,
close last year.
we can only hope. I They choke in playoffs, so I don't know, but you don't lose hope.
Yeah. I think Lamar's one of my favorite players to watch, so I hope he can get a Super Bowl one day. I think that would be fun to
Mm.
see.
Yeah, he deserves one. He's unreal.
I would say my bucket list is pretty similar, but it's to work for an NHL team. I'm a big hockey
Mhm.
fan, and I just think it would be cool to sort of uh, find a way to make it in that league. And I think it will be inspiring because I feel like a lot of people that are in the NHL go to these like big time schools, and I
Mhm.
have a lot of connections to other NHL people. So it'd be sort of cool if I could find a way to get in without some of that background and hopefully inspire other people to do the same thing.
Mhm. Yeah, that's cool. I would work in the NHL too. I've heard that's really fun.
I just think hockey is the best sport, so that's sort of why
Yeah.
I want to do it. So
Yeah.
that would be a
Fair.
lot of fun. Just one more question I want to ask you is what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
I think what you're doing is amazing, just providing more coverage. And also I think you do a really good job of spreading out the schools that you talk to. I think obviously more coverage, like I said before, would be great, but being able to go to not just the top 10 teams in the country and talk to the best players, but like being able to talk to a lot of different people from different schools with different experiences, um, would be great. And I think you do a great job of that. But I think people could probably follow in your place because there are some really great people out there with some really great skill and just really great minds too.
Well, I appreciate the kind of words, Lindsay. I feel like I'm not, I think there's a lot of other people that are doing a great things to help grow the sport of women's lacrosse. I feel like what I'm doing is just a very, very, very small fraction of helping grow the sport, but I do appreciate the kind words. It
Of
does mean a
course.
lot to myself. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. I think you're a great player. I think you're an even better person. You're one of my favorite players to watch last year. So I'm excited to see you with Clemson next year, and I wish you and your team nothing but the best.
Thank you so much, you too, and I hope you get into hockey one day.
I hope so too. We can look back on this podcast and sort of
Yes.
reminisce about it when you get in the NFL one day as well.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. It was great to meet you.